Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the SDG Roundtable, Envisaging the STEM Classroom of the Future. Today we will explore, together with our high-level speakers, how digitalization and STEM disciplines are having an impact on the society of today and are encouraging teachers, students, but also corporates to develop new skills, particularly digital ones. And that will be fundamental for the society that will come in the next years. My name is Matilde Castriotta. I am a CSR project manager on Future of Work and STEM, and today I will moderate the session. Before starting, I would like to thank in particular the collaborative platform Together for STEM, which is a free virtual learning platform to build and enforce STEM skills that was created thanks to Amgen, Huawei and Johnson Johnson. On this platform that is available online at the togetherforstem.eu, you will be able to find also STEM at Home website, which has different resources provided by our three different companies, addressed to different students and teachers, and available also on different languages. Now I would like to move to the agenda of the day and introduce you to our high-level speakers. We will start with a presentation on the importance of STEM careers made by Andrea Glorioso, Policy Officer at DG Employment at the European Commission. Later, we will move with Seeds for the Future, a presentation by Maya Zhu, Global Head of CSR at Huawei. Then we will go with the panel discussion with our 5 panelists. Jenny Buckus, Founder and Head of Content of Explore Media, Dr. Zoe Lawson, Senior Scientist at Johnson Johnson, Monica Perez Lobo, Head of Sustainability and ESG Management at Toyota Motor Europe, Luigi Narenzi, PhD teacher and teacher trainer at ANISN Amgen Biotech Experience, and Ashley Young, Science Education Program Manager at Amgen Foundation. After this panel discussion, we will have 15 minutes for the Q&A, where you will be able to ask a question to the speakers and they will be able to answer you. And then we will move on to the conclusions. A few technicalities now. I encourage the audience to use all the live discussion function and facilities. For instance, you can use the chat button, the question button, and also the polls, since we will submit a poll at during the panel discussion. All these tools are available on your screen on the right side of your laptop. Moreover, I encourage you to network as much as you can during this roundtable. You can connect with the speakers by reaching them out and clicking on the speakers part on the top bar of your screen, or also with other attendees, for instance, clicking on the networking button, always on the top of your screen. Last but not least, I encourage you to also use and go visit the CSR Toolbox, which is always present on the top of your screen. You will be able to, in fact, schedule some one-to-one calls with CSR Europe members, and also to be able to see all the resources that are available on this toolbox. And then, just as a reminder, I encourage all the audience to ask any question and to interact with our speakers through the question and answer box that you will find at the right screen. And after the panel discussion, we will address all these questions and we will be able to give you answers and interact a little bit with the audience. Now, I would like to start with the first presentation. So I leave the floor to Mr. Andrea Glorioso, Policy Officer at DG Employment at the European Commission, who will make a presentation about the importance of STEM careers, research, digitalization, and the EU role in the next years. Thank you very much for being with us today, Mr. Glorioso, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Matilde, and good afternoon to everybody. In the panel note, I would like to thank you for having me here. I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. Let me also say that I'm not sure this is visible to our viewers. It's visible to me as I look at my Zoom window. I'm particularly pleased by the fact that I am the only man in this panel. And I'm saying this very seriously because I find myself very often, especially on STEM topics, in panels that are predominantly male, which is very difficult for many reasons. So I'm particularly pleased. I don't know if I was chosen because my name, Andrea, is actually a woman's name in all over the world except in Italy. Maybe there was some confusion or some mistake. But jokes aside, I do want to congratulate the organizers for doing the right thing in this, I'm sure, other occasions. Now, on the topic of our chat today, the importance of STEM careers. Look, I think that it's pretty obvious, and I'm not going to spend too much stating the obvious when I say that clearly in our complex societies, the kind of challenges that we have to face as Europe, but all over the world, necessitate a skilled STEM, a population that is skilled in STEM at all levels. And by this, I mean not only people who choose STEM, which, by the way, is an extremely broad field. There are many different careers within the STEM field. I'm referring not only to people who choose STEM as a specialized career, but you also need to have, we need our citizens, all of our citizens, to have at least a basic understanding of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I'm not going to open that particular debate, but I think it was very clear in the middle of the worst moments of the COVID-19 pandemic that some of the debates were made more difficult by the fact that, sorry to say, but part of our population did not understand certain basic scientific, I know using the word facts when we talk about science is sometimes a bit controversial, but in those discussions, there were certain scientific facts that were not or should not have been under discussion. And the fact that they were discussed is, in my view, there are different reasons why they were discussed, some of which have nothing to do with the topic of this panel, but it was also due to the fact that in certain countries, including sadly my own home country in Italy, the average level of STEM education or scientific education is extremely low, and that is an issue. On the other hand, I would also like to point out that it's very important, there is the old saying, it's very important that you know how to do things, and that's perhaps what STEM focuses on. It's also important to reflect on why we do things. So as we make sure that we push for STEM education, we should also make sure that we don't forget that there is a whole context around more specialized STEM careers on the reflections on the why we go in one direction or the other, being informed citizens, basically. And that means that we should not forget about the humanities, we should not forget about art, we should not forget about all those topics. And ultimately, that is, and this is, I think, the second point, important point that I would like to make, from our perspective, from the perspective of the European Commission and of the European Union, which, without boring everybody with the legalities or legalism of how the European Union works, but it is a fact that in the European Union, education policy is to a very large extent a national competence. It's something that member states decide where they want to focus on. What we can provide at the European Union level, and we do that, is the tools, the framework for coordination. We'd also provide quite a bit of funding, especially to support the more disadvantaged regions of Europe or people who don't start from the same level as others. But at the end of the day, we need to be very clear that the decision, for example, on national curricula, or in some cases, or even regional curricula, is not for the European Union to take. It's not Brussels which decides what people should study. What we did do, in addition to providing this framework, we are really pushing quite a bit in cooperation with the member states. I think that there is not a lot of discussion with member states that, yes, investing in STEM is important. I think some member states make the money follow their words, some others a little bit less so, but it is part of the normal political dynamics, I would say. But what we also are trying to have with is to, in addition to pushing as much as we can, member states to increase the skill supply, let's say, to use a bit of an economic language, we also want to do a collective work to make sure we all understand that the environment, the educational environment in which we are moving today is extremely different from the educational environment of the 19th, 20th century. And why I'm saying this, because if we look at most educational systems in most countries, I would say, certainly most countries in Europe, they're still designed on the basis of what were the needs of the industrial society of the 19th century. Some of them have advanced a little bit, but there is still an approach which is mostly massified. So the goal is to teach certain topics to the largest number of people possible, which obviously means that you cannot customize very much for different needs. And it's an open question. Of course, customizing means money, but it's also true that we have tools today that would allow for much stronger customization, perhaps at the level of the classroom, if not an individual student. And it's not entirely clear that those opportunities are fully taken, and that is a bit of a missed opportunity. And then on the other side of the equation, if you will, there is also a need, because again, we do have the tools, maybe they're not perfect, but we do have tools to better understand which skills will actually be needed in different parts of Europe, in our case, or of the world at different points in time. Now, we should remain humble. We should not think that we can predict what the future is going to look like in 15, 20 years. I think that's pretty difficult. But we have an idea. If you look at the data that we have, we can have an idea of where different parts of, again, Europe in our case, are going. And here I would like, and I hope it's not too controversial, but I do think we also need collectively to be a little bit clearer to our, especially to our youth, to our young students, but maybe also a bit to the older students. STEM is not the solution to everything. Depending on where you live or where you plan to live, different types of career will probably necessitate more or less a focus on STEM. As I said, the baseline should always be there. And STEM is very important. We do need more specialized STEM professionals. But not everywhere the same kind of specializations will be needed in the same manner. And we have done some analysis of that, which is publicly available. I'm sure others have done it as well. So this is a point that I really hope is not controversial, but we should definitely keep in mind. We do have the tools to do good skills intelligence. We should make sure we apply it in a customized way as much as we can. And if I have 30 more seconds, Matilde, otherwise please make me a sign, but a point that I think that we do need to really have a more thorough discussion about is the question of who pays for all of this. Because the harsh reality is that most of the people who actually would need up or reskilling because they are in a transition career, so they have lost their career, so clearly they will be at that point in time in a few years' time, more often than not are the people who can least afford to pay for specialized training. And so there is an open question, is that in some countries that's actually a no-brainer, that's a job for the public welfare systems to support. But then the question is also, can the public welfare systems afford that? And that's my personal view. I think a fair question is also, if the private sector, if companies need specialized workers, well, then maybe the private sector also need to foot a little bit the bill, as it is already doing, to be fair, in a number of different occasions. But the bottom line is that I think that the political debate on whether we need up and reskilling and which kind of skills we need is to a large extent, I would say, widely accepted. I don't see that there are many discussions there. And that includes STEM, but also includes things like lateral thinking, creativity, empathy, ability to work in groups, all of that. I don't see that there is a lot of discussion. There are a lot of discussions about that. The more difficult debate, which we are having and we will continue to have, and we should insist on having, is indeed on the resources, on the resource allocation, on who pays for this, because at the end of the day, that's perhaps the most difficult part, but it's also a very necessary part to make sure that all of this works as we would like to. And with this, I think that I will shut up, as I talked even too much, but I'm Italian, so those who invited me know the risks that I run with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Glorioso. Indeed, I am Italian as well, so I absolutely appreciate the fact that you have been talking, and actually you are perfectly in time, so there's not a problem. But in general, that you presented so many valuable points that were indeed extremely interesting, and I think that gave a perfect presentation and overview of the whole panel discussion that we will having today, because we have indeed corporates, we have students, we have teachers, so we have basically representative of all the categories that you also mentioned before. So I think the conversation we will have today will be extremely insightful and touch upon all the points that you already raised. And for instance, about talking also about the importance of having companies let's say, having companies that also adapt their own strategies of customization and also marketing also to education. This is something that is happening already now, and it is extremely interesting and also resourceful, because it is giving a lot of opportunities to everyone. We just saw that also with, for instance, the platform I was mentioning before. It is a place on which just on one website you can find resources given by 3 different companies. So going on this, let's say, shifting on this aspect of corporates also having an impact on the STEM education, I think it's perfect the presentation that is following after yours, which is the one of Maya Zhu, global head of corporate social responsibility at Huawei, who will make indeed a presentation on one of the most famous education program at Huawei, which is Seeds for the Future. And I thank you very much, Mr. Glorioso, for your presentation. And I move now to the second one. I leave the floor to Maya Zhu. And I thank you very much, Maya, for being here with us today. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Matilde, to have me here today. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to join you today for this online event. So I hope everyone can see this slide. Please go to the next slide, the first page. Seeds for the Future is our corporate flagship CSR program dedicated to top young talent. We started from Thailand and now cover 130 countries. Nearly 9,000 students have benefited from the program. This year marks the 13th year of Huawei's Seeds for the Future program, but the second year the program has been hosted online. We succeeded to maintain our commitment, inspiring global talent to shape the future even during the pandemic. Next slide, please. From 2021, Seeds for the Future is not just a digital knowledge transfer program, but more about creating a global social platform for next generation of leaders while inspiring them through technology innovation and cross-cultural exchange. In 2021, Seeds participants will spend 8 days with us, 1 to 2 hours live streaming course per day, plus pre-recorded course on our learning platform, which is open to everyone forever, whose questions can be clarified within 24 hours. We will keep our online program available. Even on-site version will be back once the international trip is allowed. What's more, we have our global LinkedIn community where every Seeds participant can still stay in touch and enjoy the exclusive alumni event prepared by us. Next slide, please. Despite the pandemic interfering with our offline activities, our on-cloud engagements are more vibrant than ever. More than 3,000 students from 103 countries have joined our program in 2020, tripling the number of annual participants in previous years. We also received the support from around more than 470 stakeholders, such as governmental officials, academic partners, international experts, media, etc. Their kind words and support continue to grow this program. As for 2021, we got more than 3,800 students who signed up for our program. This week, currently, students from 6 European countries, such as Luxembourg, Bulgaria, Czech, etc., are now doing the program. Next slide, please. We started this program to not just empower more young people through ICT technology, but to also create a community for people who are interested in future technologies, regardless of their countries or cultures. We wanted to create a space for them to envision the future and bring that vision to life. Science knows no boundaries. Young people don't like to think inside the box and be tied down by bias. One good idea inspires even more. When brilliant minds from different countries, cultures, and educational backgrounds come together, their creativity shines even brighter. The number of our community members has exceeded 3,000 since its founded in 2020. We post the dedicated content constantly in our group and held the Seeds event quarterly to let our students talk to tech guru and have fun with the alumni. We have our latest Seeds event at the end of September, which is Meet Sophia the Rabbit, and the next one will happen in December. Young students always impress me a lot. I'd like to share an inspiring story about a former participant from Austria. After he graduated, he went on to found an award-winning aerospace technology startup. In a recent interview, he said his most valuable takeaways from the program were the deeper insight into cultural differences and a better understanding of why Huawei products were successful in different countries. Seeds for the Future program has also committed to have 1/3 female participants every year. We made it in our first online year 2020. Some countries even reached the number far more than 1/3. In Romania, this number is over 50%, and in Lima, it's over 70%. Our global society is diverse, and I look forward to the day when our industry reflects that diversity and recognize women's strength and potential. Next slide. Seeds for the Future program is not the only one educational program in Huawei. Our company decided to expand our brand to all education-related projects internally. We upgraded our program to 2.0 version. So Seeds for the Future 2.0 cover 150 countries and benefit 1.54 million people since the last 5 years. This year in July, our chairman committed to invest $150 million in next 5 years to benefit more than 3 million people. We all know that everyone has encountered and overcome many difficulties in recent 2 years. At the end, I just want to say one word to our young friend who is watching our events currently. Whatever challenges may still lie ahead, remember that you are our seeds for the future, and every seed that survives the winter will blossom with hope. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Maya, for your presentation. It was really brilliant and on point, and I really like the way you finished with this amazing sentence about the seeds that will grow in the future. Thank you very much for being with us today. I will now go on with the panel discussion. It's the moment to officially start with the panel discussion. So I would like to open the debate with our 5 leading panelists of today. We will, as already we said before, we will tackle the topic of the STEM disciplines in the next years from different angles. So we will discuss about digital and non-traditional tools in education, about the role of corporates in supporting STEM disciplines, and also about the main challenges that students, in particular women, face when starting a STEM career. So I welcome you to, I welcome the audience to see Jenny Buckus, founder and head of content Explore Media, Dr. Zoe Lawson, senior scientist at Johnson Johnson, Monica Perez-Lobo, head of sustainability and ESG management at Toyota Motor Europe, Luigina Renzi, PhD teacher and trainer at the National Italian Association of Teachers of Natural Sciences and Amgen Biotech, and Ashley Young, Science Education Program Manager at the Amgen Foundation. Right before starting, I would like to let the audience know that we just launched our poll. And I encourage all of you to reply to this question, which of course it's a little bit provocative. Should digital and STEM subjects have more weight in tomorrow's education programs? Please, if you want, you can reply to this question, and we will discuss and comment a little bit the results of this during the panel discussion. Now, I would like to open the debate, leave the floor to our panelists, and I would probably start with my first question to Jenny. Thank you very much for being with us today. Jenny, you are founder and head of content of Explore Media, which is a platform that creates and presents videos online to educate, inspire young people, and let them become agents of change. So in your opinion, what do you think? How can STEM disciplines be taught through non-traditional tools? And what is the reaction of students when they have to learn through non-traditional tools?
I think by non-traditional tools, you're referring to media. I'm just going to start by saying for the last 18 months, over 1 billion school children have been, primary and secondary school children, have been out of the traditional classroom. So the idea of traditional learning tools went out the window 18 months ago, and everyone shifted to remote learning. Non-traditional, I would say from my perspective, is the type of educational content we create focuses on stories. And if you think about, I speak about this a lot, and there are two really great examples when you focus on storytelling from like a STEM perspective. One is Sir David Attenborough, and his series Blue Planet, Planet Earth changed the perception of 70% of the British population on single-use plastics. And one storyteller had probably the greatest impact on environmental education through a television series prior to Greta Thunberg. So that's the power of storytelling in education. The other example would be anything Sesame Street has ever done in its 50-year history to educate children. So I think using stories, helping, what's the first thing you do when you see a good television show or movie? You want to tell somebody else about it. So wrapping education in stories and ensuring that the people in front of the camera are real world relevant and relatable to the audience that they are attempting to educate resonates more with students in my experience.
Thank you very much. Now, I think indeed it's absolutely true that storytelling, it's a little bit the key of the learning, which is also why people learn so much when a story is told, when a story is a little bit more enriched, rather than just reading on a book and having a very, let's say, face-to-face kind of learning. And talking about this, and in particular talking about what we call active learning, I would like now to address my next question to Mrs. Luigina Renzi, who is a PhD teacher trainer, and is part of the National Italian Association of Natural Sciences, as well as Amgen Biotech. Luigina, we were talking about students and how they react when education is also combined with, let's say, digital tools, and in this case, also storytelling. Can you tell us a little bit from your experience, what do you think about this? And also, which methodologies you think were better than others?
Thank you, everybody. I'm really happy to be here, and I take the words from Jenny and from Andrea, which really sounds very familiar to me, because either the tools, the digital tools, but also the new methodology that uses these tools are part of the training that National Association Science Teacher in Italy, but not only in Italy, are using currently. And actually, it's true that we have been shifting, towards the digital 18 months ago, but the process of changing learning is already on since probably around 2005. From that point, the National Association of Science Teacher decided to shift the teaching and the learning process towards a more non-traditional way of teaching. I am very I'm very happy to present the IBSE methodology, which means inquiry-based science education methodology. It has different names, different procedure, but mostly it's a methodology which involves the students in a very active way. And of course, we don't know what the students will do in the future. I agree with Andrea that it's necessary to work on basic abilities like humanities and so on, but they have to learn how to make the data, go to the lab, make and think about little experience and discuss the data that they can get from their experience, the experimental procedure that they have done, not in a very traditional way, but in a very proactive way. So what we are doing, like National Association of Science Teacher, we worked for many years now to set up centers all over Italy where teachers can be trained in this new methodology, which has been founded also from Amgen with a project called Amgen Teach, and now through Amgen Biotech Experience, which is focused on biotechnology. And this procedure involved the student, triggered the student in a very active way to think their experiments, to discuss about the question they want to address, and try to solve the question they address. So it's a lot of work, but it's very, very effective. Also because we don't know what they are going to do in the future as a job, but we want to give them the basic skill to understand the data, to analyze the data, and basically to make their own opinion. I think this is a very, very powerful approach towards a very more critical thinking and against the fake news. To do that, in the last 18 months, we have been using Lab Exchange. Lab Exchange is an incredible good platform where I don't know, Matilde, if you want to show the Hive. Yes, thank you. It's a very interesting platform where you can find thousands of resources and you can compose them as one thing according to the understanding and learning process, which is a process of increasing and improving the skills, not only the contents. And as you can see here, you can move this Hive as you prefer to make your perfect pathway, just to have a better tool to get the students, involved and participate the learning process. So just to give you hints, then if you want to say more, I can tell you more about this, but this is a very big effort which has been done in Italy, in France, with La Maison de la Science, with Le Maine à la Pâte, and some other in some other countries as well. And I think this is a way that we have to move towards the future in order to give the students some tools to increase their skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regina, for your insights. And I'm really happy also that we showed the image of the Hive of Lab Exchange, which indeed it's a great tool. And I think also all the information that you gave about also the importance of triggering students towards STEM education is extremely important. And since we were talking about a program launched by the Amgen Foundation, by Lab Exchange, and in general by Amgen, and how, again, corporates can actively supports STEM education and STEM students, I would now probably go and ask an opinion to Ashley Young, Science Education Program Manager at the Amgen Foundation. So what's your opinion on this, Ashley? And also, what do you think about the importance of providing digital skills throughout the lifelong learning experience? So we start with education, but then how can we keep going, keep learning and having more and more resources on the digital side?
Great questions, and great to hear from all the panelists so far today. I want to start by addressing Andrea's comment that he opened with. We're surrounded by incredible women who have achieved, what they have to be here today. If you were keeping up with the Nobel Prize winners this month, 100% male. So we still have a ways to go, and I know everybody on this panel knows that. And the free, high quality access to science educational resources that is available now that we have digital tools, we cannot push that to the side. And I would agree with Jenny's point that storytelling is so important, not just storytelling of that traditional archetype of the male white scientist, but who are all of the scientists across the globe, male, female, transgender, young, old, all different backgrounds and races. And so I see the combination of the digital and the storytelling coming together to set the stage for students to be able to see themselves in these careers. Not only to be able to see themselves in a STEM career, but also to go on and respect the process of science and become scientifically literate citizens, no matter if they join the STEM industry or not. We are very excited about the digital space and the ability to provide free, high quality educational content that is flexible. And so let's use that power of technology. You're not just sending out a digital ebook that you're then stuck with reading front to back. Let's take the best chapter and the best paragraph from this section and the best video from Jenny and the best, simulation from this university and piece it together in a way that works for the teachers designing a learning experiment, but also in a way that students can do so themselves. And so I'm really excited about the future of the STEM educational technology kind of convergence. And I agree that I think we don't want to see the traditional approach. Often, if you think of this metaphor, how would a traditional class learn how to ride a bike? Maybe their teacher would draw every component of the bike on the chalkboard and they would label it, and the students would have to copy that on paper. And then maybe they would try some formulas around physics for balance, and then maybe they would be tested and they have to remember the exact PSI of the bike tires. And then at the end of that, they would be expected to be able to ride a bike, and they've never actually ridden or touched a real bike. And so I do echo, the importance of these tools, but I guess we cannot neglect, as we've heard from others today, the importance of those hands-on opportunities as well. And so really, we would like to see the best of both coming together. And that is where I would like to pause and open up for other questions from others.
Thank you very much, Ashley. And indeed, I completely agree with you. It's extremely important. And also you open a little bit more the debate also on the inclusiveness of STEM and the necessity of having more inclusiveness in STEM disciplines in general. I have here, for instance, the UNESCO report called Cracking the Code, Girls and Women's Education in STEM that was released in 2017. And it's alarming to see that only, according to these reports, only 28% of the world's researchers are women. And this is something that clearly means that things have to change, but also that the situation is alarming itself, because inclusiveness is important, not just because of the fairness and the balance of gender, but also because it is actually contributing to the best of the STEM outputs and of the science in general. Now, having just a quick look at our poll that I was mentioning you before, I am a little bit surprised, but they told me that basically the results is 16 voters for the yes and 0 for the no. So for the moment, we have a strong, if like complete majority of people believing that STEM disciplines should have more weight in tomorrow's education. And I think this is something that reflects also what Andrea was saying before about the fact that we are learning and we are part of an education environment that is not actually reflecting the society we live in, which now it's more and more combined with digital tools and STEM disciplines somehow, especially right now after the pandemic. So there is a need of changing this field. There is a need of changing the field from the inside, but also in the way these disciplines are taught. And according to this, I would like now, in fact, to keep talking about the inclusiveness of STEM and importance of having more women in STEM, but in general, I would say also diversity of any kind, race, gender, sex in STEM, by addressing to Monica Perez Lobo, who is the head of sustainability and ESG management at Toyota Motor Europe. I would like to know a little bit more your, let's say, story, because I know that in Toyota right now you are working a lot on a very innovative and interesting project involving STEM and women. And I think it's also really particular the fact that you are promoting diversity in a sector, automotive, which sometimes is stigmatized as something only male related. What do you think, Monica?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be in the panel. I mean, so far, I think that a lot of very interesting, insightful comments have been made by the other panelists. And yes, I mean, I was thinking in the importance of STEM for the future, because we will need innovation to solve some of the problems that we have today and we are facing today. And this is very important, and we cannot forget that. I mean, if we talk about climate change, we will need science and to solve it. So we really will need this collective effort of the society to work in those areas. But if we think in, for example, in automotive, we are transforming ourselves from a traditional manufacturing company to a mobility company, where software is more important and technology is also playing this role to make it sustainable. So we will need this type of profiles in our companies. But then when you look at, fortunately, the statistics, and we see that in Europe, 18% of the jobs in manufacturing are only 80% is occupied by women, which is not really representing what is the society, and is not representing the diversity that we need in the companies as well, to have all these point of views and to have all this richness of all the skills all together. So yes, we are trying to attract more female talent into Toyota and also to the automotive business, because it's also a problem for us, and we don't have this representation that we would like. But then when you are doing this, you realize that you don't have enough pipeline. I mean, that we don't have enough women or that already have chosen a career in STEM. And this is, for me, one of the big gaps, big problems that we are facing in STEM, that we need to fix, because we need to fix as a matter of fairness in terms of opportunities for the future as part of the sustainable agenda, but we need also to fix in terms of bringing this diversity into the corporations as well. When you look at what is happening and how we can attract more women to these type of careers, we are working with to social organizations. We are working with Inspiring Girls and with Junior Achievement. And what you see is that little girls from very early age, they have these beliefs that they are not good in maths, for example, because they have these stereotypes of what is expected from a girl. And there's a lot of research about this. I mean, it's not something that I'm making up. I mean, there's a lot of research about why we really need to show to these little girls from very early age that a different thing is possible. And what is our project? We call it Girls STEM the Future, because we want to bring these three words together. Girls together with the STEM and together with the future. We are building for that. And what we are trying to do is to show them, encourage them to take this approach of STEM career, and even to attract them to the automotive industry, or for Toyota being a bit selfish as well, showing through our female engineers that they do super fun things, interesting things, and that they can do it as well because they are also girls. So I think Ashley was talking about this hands-on approach, and this is what we are trying to bring into the schools with our engineers. Maybe they bring a bit of a small parts of the car so they can show how they are working with it, and the children can see how they can work, that this is something that is good for them, that they can do it as well. And we are having a lot of initiatives in that area, really to show the girls mainly. I mean, of course, we talk to the boys as well. I mean, it's all children in general, but through our female engineers, female role models, that this is possible for them. Because again, there is a lot of research showing that if a girl sees that a woman can do something, they will think, oh, I can do it as well. So we don't have enough visibility of women, and I think I will come back to this comment from Andrea at the beginning, that we don't have enough visibility of women talking about these things or doing this type of jobs. So we really need to show to the girls, we need to show to the society that this is possible. And of course, this is not an isolated initiative. Huh? It's part of a whole strategy, also working internally with our employees, working on the recruitment, but also looking outside and say, okay, how we can contribute as a corporation to accelerate this change that is essential in our society, and is how we can encourage the girls to take these decisions about the STEM careers, and also to support the female innovation. Because as I said, to tackle all these big problems of the world today, of the humanity, we will need a lot of innovation. We will need a lot of science. So this is a bit in a nutshell. And thank you for the question, because I'm totally passionate about this topic, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share a bit about it.
And we thank you so much for your answer, and also for presenting Girls STEM the Future, and for being here today with us, of course. Thank you very much for all your insights that were very, very interesting. And it's really shocking, but not surprising at all at the same time, how all the things that you were saying are completely combined and perfectly matched with also a lot of different stories that I heard when we had the previous calls with all of you speakers, but in general also with a lot of also people that I know in the STEM field. And that's why probably I would direct myself now to Zoe Lawson, who is a scientist at Johnson Johnson. And Zoe, you were actually telling me about the challenges of starting a STEM career, and also of being a STEM student in university, or even before, in particularly in an environment in which sometimes even teachers do not believe in yourself, and even female teachers sometimes are not really believing in the fact that women can do that, women or any other kind of, let's say, gender. So this is really shocking somehow, but at the same time, it's the normal, the reality, it's normal. What do you think, Zoe? Do you want to maybe dive in a little bit more in the challenges and expectation of STEM careers and the importance of diversity and inclusion?
Sure. Thank you, Matilda. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and be part of this panel discussion today. So I would echo many of the things that Monica just said, actually, and also picking up on the point that you made, and that relates to the conversation that we had together previously, when I was telling you about my maths teacher at school, you know, ages ago now. But yeah, my maths teacher actually was a lady, Mrs. Pontefract. I remember her well, and I was in the top set for mathematics. And actually, there weren't that many girls. And I think that was not because of ability, but that was because Mrs. Pontefract used to tell us that boys are better at mathematics than girls, you know. And so hopefully, Mrs. Pontefract has definitely retired since then, which is probably a good thing. But I hope, you know, that was 20 odd years ago. Hopefully, things have changed since then. I'm sure they have, you know. And so, yeah, well, you need to absolutely smash this idea that boys are better at maths than girls, because it's obviously not true. And actually, if we look at India, for example, where this kind of cultural idea that boys, men are better at technical, analytical subjects than girls and women, there isn't this distinction in students and graduates in these kind of STEM disciplines. There really isn't. Even if we look in STEM itself, you know, if we take perhaps on the lighter end of the STEM scale for mathematics, something like, I don't know, ecology, and then right through to pure mathematics, we still see there are more women in perhaps ecology than there would be in pure mathematics. And I think that is down to this cultural, especially in the West, this cultural assumption that, you know, boys are better, and so therefore, you know, girls, exactly what Monica said, this role models. If you're told what boys are better from a young age, then you believe this. These are children, these are adults saying things like this, and so it can really fundamentally change the course of people's lives. And I mean, I think things have definitely got better since then, but we still need to keep pushing the narrative that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are for everybody. If you have a passion, and if there are students listening to us now, especially any school children, any teenagers, if you're passionate about any of those subjects that fall under this STEM umbrella, then follow them. You don't need to conform to a particular stereotype of being white and male. And no. If you're interested and passionate, then follow that passion. Because STEM, you know, it's open to everybody. It should be open to everybody. And I hope through the many initiatives that companies like ours here today, we can show that that's the case. And picking up on some of the other commentary from other panelists, I think making STEM more inclusive and more diverse benefits everybody, because we know that diverse teams perform better on all axes: gender, ethnicity, religion, nationality, whatever. The more diverse our teams, the better they perform, the better the solutions that they create. And so everybody then benefits, you know, all of us, society, the world in general benefits from STEM being inclusive. And so, yeah, I think that the challenges, they've lessened. They're still there to a certain extent, but hopefully we can continue smashing them and making the world of STEM more and more inclusive.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your insights. And I cannot agree more with what all of you just said. I'm really happy about this topic. I'm really happy that we're raising this topic so much now. We have a question from the audience that just came in. So I would probably start, let's say, a second round of discussion and topics about this. The audience is asking us, so according to the poll, we saw that STEM should be a larger part of future education models, but how do you convince administrators and those who direct curriculum to move in that direction? And I think we might have different answers, but of course, I would start maybe with Mr. Andrea Glorioso, since you work in the Commission and you probably have more insights from the administration sides.
Visible to all the viewers. I hope they can hear my voice at least. But yeah, great. Now I know the other panelists can see me. I don't know if everybody else can see me, but it's fine. I'm not that good looking anyway, if at all. So the important thing is that you can hear my voice. Look, I don't think that the fact that I work for the Commission makes me particularly better at answering the question on how to move administrator and those who choose school curriculum in a particular direction. And in fact, I wanted to share, if you allow me, a slightly more personal perspective as a parent. I have two boys, 9 and 11, almost 9 and 11. And I keep on being quite amazed by the level of resistance that you meet whenever there is a proposal for change in education system, in schools, in classrooms. In my experience, the school administrations can be convinced if there are the resources, the budget, the teachers, with very few exceptions, including perhaps Miss Pontefract, but there are the Mrs. Pontefract in this world, but by and large, teachers love what they do and they can be convinced. Children, if you tell them in the right way, they're enthusiastic about new way of doing things. The ones, in my experience, that are most often the most conservative and the most resistant to change are parents. And there are many reasons for that. It's not because parents are ignorant or stupid or whatever. It's just because as a parent, it's very difficult for you. You have pressure. You want your children to succeed. You want your children to be happy, but you don't have that many models. Commission, nor I myself, I'm suggesting in any word form that parents should be taken out of the equation of educational choice. Absolutely not. Parents have to be, and families have to be current center. But when I look at many, many programs, including, I have to say, ours, the ones that we funded the European Commission, that try to support new ways of educating children, new approaches, everything that has been discussed in this panel, with which I almost 100% I agree with everything that I heard. But very often I find that the parents are left out of the equation, and not enough attention is given to developing the resources that parents need in order to be supported in what are very often quite ambitious choices. Because I don't know how many, and I don't need to know how many in this panel are parents, but if you are, and you're told, okay, you know what, Andrea, from this year, we are going to try a completely new educational approach that will have an impact on your child's future for the next 15 years. As a parent, that's a very tough proposition. You want to make sure that you fully understand, okay, maybe you can't have security that's or what will happen, but it's not just something that you can accept as a black box as a parent. So to cut a long story short, I do think that in order to move in a certain direction, of course, every stakeholder has to be on board. We need to have the money, and that's important. Wherever that money comes from, all these things mean resources. They take time and resources and money, and those need to be budgeted in. But we also need the buy-in of the parents, of the families, and that buy-in cannot be imposed. It does not arrive by itself. So we do need to focus a little bit on that dimension as well, I think. And again, just to be clear, this is my own personal experience and personal view, perhaps a little bit informed because I'm part of a number of parent-teacher association, parent-school association, which can be quite painful at times, as many of you will know, but it's not an official position of the European Commission, just to be clear.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Jenny, do you have any comments on the what Andrea just said, and also on the question that I addressed before?
I do. So particularly speaking to the primary and secondary school education system. And in 20 years, we've worked with education ministries and local boards of education across 40 countries, but I'm going to focus specifically on the US, which has 14,000 school districts. So when you want to change a curriculum with someone, you have to go to a tiny school district, the New York City public school system, the LA. So you have to get buy-in from every single individual school district. And we found the way to be successful with that. So in addition to doing video, we also have lessons that go with everything, Don't separate STEM. Don't make it a zero-sum game. People aren't talking STEM in the US anymore. It's STEAM. It's science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So if you can bring that art back in, then you've combined the two. This year, people are asking for social emotional learning. Can you combine social emotional learning with a STEM lesson? Absolutely, you can. Can you bring in digital literacy, media literacy? Absolutely, you can. Can you bring in global cultural competency to STEM? Absolutely, you can. And then the big trigger is workforce readiness and career development. And if you can say, we're setting your child on a pathway to have a job or continue their education, that's where you can start to really make headway.
Thank you very much, Jenny, also for your contribution. That's extremely interesting indeed. Maybe I might go now to Regina, since we were again talking about education and how to provide this and how to also improve on STEM and the disciplines and the relationship also with the students. What do you think about what we said, and do you have other insights maybe on this?
Yeah. I agree with Jenny. I think big effort have been done in order to change the traditional way of teaching, and the emotional learning is the key. You have to emotionate, involve, trigger, make new ideas. There are no wrong ideas. They have to experiment. I think this is the key. Students need to be involved in what they are doing and need to be involved passionately. This is very important. Teachers can make the difference, and teacher needs to be trained to do the new path in order to change this. It's not only the curriculum, it's the abilities and competencies that we need to focus on. It's not only the content. Content is not enough because we get older faster than the content. I mean, it's like there are so many info that sometimes they're difficult to handle. So the thing that we have to shape is the mind, is the student's mind, in order for them to collect this data, collect this info, and try to, how to say, discriminate between fake and non-fake, between what they want to do, and you can do this by critical thinking and also by involve the emotion while the teacher is teaching and the students are learning. And I want just to add something on what Andrea Glorioso just said. I think the social welfare is very important. Like, for instance, I see many girls coming out from high school, get into the university, but they don't reach the high position, the common position. In between, there is a big gap, which is related to pregnancy, which is related to family, which is related to social welfare. I think women need this support, need to break this stereotype, and need the support, because as you can see in northern country, there is no such, the difficult for women to be in high position, in common position. So I think that, of course, we need to support the girl. We need to break this stigmata, this kind of stereotype, but we need support for the young ladies, women that want to have family, they want to have kids, or a family, whatever it is, open, homosexual, trans, whatever. But we need support for this, because this is the gap that we lose when we lose girls. Thank you.
Maybe, Andrea, do you want to briefly reply to this? Or we can just
No, I just again, I hope everybody can hear me. I don't see myself in the screen. No, just to very briefly, I absolutely and completely and wholeheartedly, personally, and I can also say on behalf of the European Commission, agree with what Luigina said. And perhaps just because the fact that we do need to look at the micro level, at the family level, at the decision that parents make, etc., does not mean that we should ignore what are the macro, the macro scale, the larger scale dynamics and triggers and obstacles that different people, including women in particular in this topic, face. So it's absolutely true what Luigina says, that there is a certain point, especially in, I can think certainly of Italy, but it's not the only country in Europe with these kind of issues, where women simply do not receive the societal support that they need. And if it's true that it takes a village to raise a child, as the old saying goes, it takes a bigger, a town, a city, a country to educate to educate people, including women. I will just say that I would extend this, and I'm sure Regina will agree with me. I think that this can be extended to everybody who finds him or herself in situation of difficulty. The societal support has to be there no matter what. Women face a certain specific obstacles, which we absolutely need to address. So full agreement, again, to be clear.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A follow-up that might be done by Zoe now. I saw that you wanted to raise another point.
I just wanted to follow on from those past two comments. I personally and the company that I work for absolutely agree with this. I mean, it's all well and good having greater diversity, especially in gender in STEM, and encouraging that. But we, at the moment, as Luigina pointed out, we just lose people in the middle. You know, and that happened to me. You know, when I have small children under 5, and when I was pregnant, I was very ill. I couldn't work. I lost my job, and then I ended up outside of the workforce. And I came into Johnson and Johnson through their Reignite program, which is a program for career returners, which is open to anybody who's taken a break. But as you can imagine, most of the people on that global program are women that have taken breaks for career, whether planned for a family break, whether planned or unplanned, like me. I never planned to take a career break for a family. I expected to have, maybe had very silly ideas about what being pregnant was like, but they didn't match my expectations. I will say that. And so, you know, and then we can look now. I mean, I don't even know. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty confident that I can say that the CEOs of the companies the ladies are present here today from, it's Toyota and Amgen and Huawei and Johnson Johnson, they're all men, because that mid-career hurdle is really difficult to jump for women. Now, I'm conscious we're getting away from the topic a little bit, but it's also something that, you know, needs attention and needs bearing in mind. If we encourage all these women into STEM and then we just lose them later, you know, that's a real shame. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have, I will just leave you the words. I know we have some comments by Monica on this and Jenny afterwards, and then we will have a question from the audience.
Yeah, well, I think that the situation that we are, that it was discussed about this career break, or the situation of women because of circumstances like being a mother or getting pregnant. I think it's not only for STEM. I think it's in general, and of course is something that we really need to address as a society, you know? Because if we really want to have this diversity in the workforce, we really need to go to that. I wanted to make a comment about, I think, a comment from the audience. Mathilde, I don't know if you want me to do it later about.
No, it's perfect. I think already like the Q&A has been basically integrating in the panel discussion right now, or also because I'm not sure you are able to see all the comments coming. So for you to know, the comment is about parents, guardians also play a huge role in influencing their children in deciding to start or not a STEM career.
Yeah, and I want to come back to the importance of the role models, because these role models is also influencing the parents and the teachers. I mean, when the parents and the teachers, they see that there is this possibility for women to go in certain areas in which is not so frequent to have this female representation, they will feel also more relaxed for their girls to go into that career, and they will be much more supportive because they see that is something that they can do. Because at the end of the day, I think in general, parents, we want the best for our children. So sometimes this reluctancy of some parents to encourage the girls to go into this career is because they think it's going to be super hard for them. While if they also see those role models, those successful women doing this type of jobs, and it's a normal thing in the society to see this type of women doing these jobs, it will be much easier for them as well to support the young girls. So I think this idea of giving more visibility, allowing more space for women to show what they are able to do, is a good influence for girls, but it's a good influence for parents and teachers as well. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Great. Ashley, do you have any comments on this?
I do. And I think for those on the call who are at large corporations, it's kind of a call to action that you're hearing. The staff in your ranks, the subject matter experts in STEM, you can tap into their time and talent and loop them into the community in which your company sits. And so Toyota is doing that, Amgen's doing that, Johnson & Johnson is doing that. We see this potential of uniting the fronts here of the staff within industry that are traditionally behind these walls, so that the careers and the responsibilities of tomorrow are a little bit hidden, breaking down that barrier and putting that in the forefront of the students, of the teachers, of their communities. And so that storytelling aspect, that featuring of a diverse opportunity of careers and diverse professionals that have been successful in them, and especially women, is I think that great call to action for any corporation and industry in STEM to answer. So thank you. I appreciate Monica's comments there.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. Jenny, any comments on this? What do you think about this call to action to big corporates?
Well, first of all, I think the call to action is much more than women and girls in STEM. I think it's every underserved or under-resourced community within our communities. Particularly in the United States, we focus on getting Black children involved in STEM. And I'm very much in the, if you see it, you can be it. So this is going back to storytelling, not just in my role, but commercials that your corporations are putting forward, marketing materials, programs that you're doing. People want to see themselves reflected. Ashley, in your call to corporates, I would just say in the next hour, I'm going to shoot 2 new episodes with Johnson & Johnson today, featuring STEM careers you never thought you could have, 2 incredible women. And we're doing it in like a Marvel comic book style. So we're playing up their superhero qualities in the workforce and outside of the workplace. And Johnson & Johnson approached me to do this. So that is one company that is looking to, really get to teens and tweens well before they start their career path. But how can we spark that interest, spark that curiosity, and have somebody see a story that reflects their culture, their community, their history, their story?
Thank you so much, Jenny. Monica, you had a comment on this.
It's just a very short comment on what Jenny said about not only women, and it's true. I mean, I think it's about representing the society within the corporations, which means that in the case of one country or one region can be something different to what is in another region of the world. But in our case, the focus on gender diversity, for instance, is because we really have a gap in that sense. So this is the problem that we are really trying to solve. No? Just to clarify that, thank you.
Thank you so much for all these great insights. And I really like how the conversation is going so smoothly and fluent. Is anyone else from the panelists willing to add something else? Or do you have any other comments on this? I think we didn't really receive a lot of new questions, if I'm not wrong. So, okay, I see that Andrea wanted to make a brief wrapping up comments maybe, so the floor is yours if you want.
Thank you very much, Matilda. I'll leave the wrapping up to you as our moderator, but just an observation, and it's not, I like very much the conversation. I think there is need for action, which has to come from the private sector. It also has to come from the public sector, because let's be very clear, there are countries, including in the European Union, which are not spending nearly enough what they should in their education systems. And that has to change very soon, very quickly. So everybody has to take responsibility. I will not spend too much time repeating that. The one point on which I'd like to, not to be kind of the party poopers, but we need also to be a bit realistic in the story that we tell our children, in the sense that even though my life brought me elsewhere in the end, but I always loved very much STEM when I was a student, and I was even pretty good at it, if I remember correctly. The one thing that I always loved about it was the fact that it allowed me to see the world, which is a complex place, as something that I could, with patience, with time, but that I could understand, that I could decompose problems and maybe not immediately, but I could get to some kind of solution I could at least advance. Now, as I don't need to tell you in this panel, this is hard work. It takes time, it takes a lot of effort. And what I'm trying to say is that, yes, we need to encourage children, all students to go into STEM, absolutely. We also need to be very clear with them, it's a tough career. It's a tough, you don't get results just by, sorry, I'm being a bit sarcastic here, you don't get results by taking a selfie. It takes time, it takes effort, and also another point on which we do need to be clear, it's not anymore like it used to be once upon a time when access to higher education was a very classist endeavor and only certain people went to university. Graduating in engineering today is not anymore a guarantee to find a job. It used to be 20, 30 years ago because a tiny minority of people did it. Nowadays, it's less so. And this is not a reason not to encourage people to go into that field. But we do see, we run surveys on it, we do see that there is a bit of mismatch between expectations of what you are going to get by following a certain career and studying. Educational path, what is the difficulty of that educational path, and that contributes. It's not the main driver. There are others, as other panelists have said, but it does contribute to a certain dropout rate that in the end is not beneficial to anyone. So again, I didn't mean to be to be negative. I'm not a negative person. I'm quite optimistic about where we can go, but sitting where I sit, yes, we need to push. We also need to be as honest as possible about what are the realistic expectations of how quickly we can get to where we want to get. Otherwise, there is always the risk to have a bit of, if we are too optimistic and we sell too much too fast, there is always the risk to have a bit of public blowback, and then it becomes more difficult to restart the whole machinery, if the metaphor works.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I think that this is also something really related to the fact that we need more and more research, that sometimes research in a sense take advantage of the research, having more and more corporates and more the possibility of having people that invest on this, because we saw that with the pandemic, it's extremely important for diseases, but not only for the AI, and a lot of other different aspects of STEM disciplines, and not only that are going to shape so importantly the future of work, the future skills, the future of education. So I think it's also important to stress on the fact that it's a matter of investment and a matter of understanding why it's so important to invest on some STEM disciplines, and maybe to just trigger, as we were saying before, and really foster people and students to start this kind of careers, and felt that they are really supported by the society, by teachers, and of course by corporates as well, since we saw that corporates are now taking action and really actively working on this a lot. We still have 5 minutes, so I don't know if there's any other comments. Otherwise, I might actually ask you all to, I don't know, if you have any brief tip that you would like to give to the audience, just like one, let's say, one tip, one keyword that is something everyone should take away after this roundtable today. Maybe we can start directly with you, Andrea. One takeaway of this roundtable, one good advice to the audience.
Oh my God, I was really hoping I wouldn't be the first. I guess for me, the takeaway that I would like to share is, and I know this sounds very cheesy, but I believe in it. If you're a student, believe in yourself. If you want to do something, at some point, do it, try it. It's better, and again, I know this sounds very rhetorical, but I speak by life experience. If you believe you can do something, it's better to try and fail than to wake up 20 years later and think, well, I really wish I'd done that, or I tried to do that, and now it's a bit more difficult. There's always time, by the way, but it can be more difficult. So try it, and failure is not that much of a problem at the end of the day.
All right, thank you so much. Zoe, I saw that you were agreeing a lot. I saw from the screen that you were indeed agreeing with Andrea. What's your one last tip?
I find myself agreeing with a lot of what Andrea has to say, actually. And mine would be to pick up on something that Andrea said at the beginning of the conversation, or maybe even in his presentation. We're talking about STEM and careers in STEM, and encouraging more diversity in STEM careers for the workforce of the future. But I would say my kind of take home would be that STEM science, it's for everybody, and that comes back to what Andrea was saying about, even if you don't work in a scientific role, like I'm in a particular scientific role, it's my job title, but even if you don't, we need all citizens in all countries to be scientifically literate to at least a minimum degree, so that we can avoid some of the things exactly that we've seen with the COVID pandemic. So we don't have people drinking bleach because they think that that's going to help cure COVID, and killing themselves in the process. And all those things to stop the fake news, as Louis-Jean was talking about earlier. So yeah, science is for everybody, and it's fun. I love it, but I guess that's probably a given. And I would encourage everybody, to get involved wherever you can. Even if it's just go to the science museum with your kids and look at the exhibits that are there too. Don't just sort of follow them around. It's there for all of us. So that would be my parting comment. Thank you, Matilda.
Thank you very much. Monica?
Yes, thank you. My last comment could be maybe a couple of call to actions. One is for this female women already working in STEM to take a step and become a role model for the girls out there, to show them that this is possible for them as well. And then my second call to action, maybe coming back to Ashley's comment before, to all corporations really to look at it and to identify how to contribute to improve the representation of the society in the corporations as well, as we're trying to do.
Thank you so much. The last two tips, maybe Luigina.
Yeah, I wanna say something on the teacher side. Teachers can really make the difference. So we really hope that this challenge to change the teaching methodology, it's a big effort. So we need the help of everybody, stakeholders and institutions and everybody, because I think from our side, we can do a lot on this. I don't want to be, I don't want to see any more Mrs. Pontefract or whatever. So yeah, teachers can make the difference, and I really do believe this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe Ashley now?
Yes, okay, I'll close. I want to go back to Zoe's comment. We have a tagline we use a lot. Everyone needs science. Science needs everyone. And so what you were saying just, it reminded me of that tagline, and I wanted to call it out. I think that we all see there's a significant challenge to change. It's not an overnight switch. It's not an on and off. It's a long haul for the future. And my tip in closing would be to find the people who fill your cup, and especially to teachers. I want to say this as the science teachers in the world. The work that you're doing is not easy, and providing an environment for students in which they're able to explore, they're able to fail, they're able to imagine different opportunities for themselves. Who are those people who can then fill your cup as we all take on this challenging work together?
Thank you very much, Ashley. And now, last maybe tip from Jenny.
I'm going to do a call to action. So one thing we didn't talk about today is science has a communications problem. Science is for everyone, but for all the people who don't think science is for them, my challenge is to think about relevancy. So for every child saying, why do I need to learn this? I'm not going to be a scientist. How do we make it relevant to their life? So, and that's not just for children. How do we make science and STEM relevant to every person on the planet?
Thank you very much. I think this indeed is an extremely interesting topic. I will keep this maybe for next year SDG Summit. So be free next year, because probably we'll try to have a second roundtable on STEM, because indeed there's so much to talk about, so many points to raise, so many things to do, calls to action that you all touched upon were extremely relevant, and so many insights, really brilliant. So I thank you all so much for being here today with us. I really hope that you enjoyed this roundtable and this panel discussion that grew as much as I did. And I hope that the audience as well was really enjoying this conversation. I would like now just to, again, thank you all for being here, and also for all the presentation that you did at the beginning, Andrea and Maya, and for the panel discussion that happened afterwards. And now, as just before saying the very last goodbyes, I would like to remind to the audience that we have a very last session at the SDG Summit today, which will be at 4 on the role of sustainability, education and certification. This is a national SDG Roundtable. So I really hope that you will be part also of this very last roundtable. And again, I thank you all for being here today with me and with all of us. I really hope that the audience enjoyed this conversation. And thank you all. And I hope to see you soon to others SDG Summit sessions. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Matilda.
Thank
Thank you very much.